So how have you been handling Rashee Rice? Were you someone that was trying to get on him early, now cooling off as he's rising? Are you just all the way locked in? Is he still a value? How do you see this thing playing out here for these Chiefs pass catchers?
I was not in on him early, and now I have the FOMOs, and I'm imploring people to get some now. Get some Rashee Rice right now. And the simple question you have to ask yourself, if there was no concern about injury and there was no concern about a possible suspension, where should this player be drafted? Right? And the answer is the second round for sure.
What is going on, Sharp Football Fantasy family? It is your resident Swami of Konami, Rich Hribar, back again with lead NFL analyst at Fantasy Alarm Sports, Andrew Cooper. You can check out their 2025 draft guard at the site. You can follow him on the Fantasy Alarm Sirius XM show Wednesday nights, 6 to 8 p.m. Andrew, I wanted to do one kind of other fun segment, or maybe not fun segment if you kind of think about it, that these wide receiver twos, right? Like, are always a conundrum in fantasy football because they're players that are clearly talented and have upside, but they also come with some red flags, or they beat wide receiver ones, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about how we're navigating that area a little bit, but I'm going to give you a couple names early on to kind of walk through to see if these guys are maybe a little trap, or do we get kind of like a little bit of a treat with these players? So the first guy I want to talk about is Garrett Wilson, who has climbed now to wide receiver 13 in ADP. So let me hear your initial thoughts on, Garrett Wilson and his current ADP.
Yeah. So Garrett Wilson, this is one that does scare me a little bit. Now, I know what everyone's doing. They're looking at DJ Moore. DJ Moore's production with Justin Fields. But the thing that scares me the most here is I pop over to the sports books, right? And they don't know everything. Yeah, that's
I know you're going at this one.
That's where it gets scary, because it's like they don't know everything, but they're pretty darn good. And they're pretty darn good at predicting a range, right? When you look at the lines for Justin Fields, we're looking at like 2,500 yards passing, 14 and a half touchdown passes. That is a projection of failure, man. That's projecting the year that he had when they decided that he was not an NFL caliber starting quarterback, right? So like when the books are telling you that brings up a scary place where we could end up seeing Tyrod Taylor. But I mean, like every other quarterback that they have odds for, the lowest one is like 3,000. Like Cam Ward as a rookie, Bryce Young, like those guys are all above 3,000. Like the MGM Sportsbook where I was looking at it the other day, they're projecting every other quarterback that they have odds for to have 500 more passing yards than this guy. Like it could end up being just a nightmare passing season for this team. And when I look at Garrett Wilson, and his loose sleeves out there, I think he's a great player. I think he can definitely create separation. There are times where he snaps guys off at the top of routes, but like, is Justin Fields the right quarterback for what he does? Can Justin Fields make him a wide receiver 7 or 8 in fantasy? Because to me personally, when I draft a wide receiver at wide receiver 13, I'm not drafting him because I want them to be wide receiver 13. I'm not drafting him hoping that, at least I'll have wide receiver 14. I have a list of guys that I think can be the best wide receiver in the league, the wide receiver 1 in fantasy football. And that list is probably about like 15 guys long. So until that list is exhausted, I'm not going to settle for, well, let's hope that Justin Fields can run out the best case outcome and he can be DJ Moore. Like there are still guys that I'm picking where I'm saying this guy could be the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy football. So I just can't. I'm not really drafting much Garrett Wilson where it goes right now. Too much. Second round.
I thought you were going in a different direction with the sportsbook, but you actually just reinforced another thing that I was going to. I mean, if you look at his projected over under, or his over under touchdown total, it's 4.5
for Garrett Wilson. Yeah. So, I mean, like his own lines are terrible. It's just.
And you look at some of the guys he's going around, and they're all 7.5, 8.5. And it's just like, oh, okay.
Oh, I'd rather just bet that line. Like, just bet the line. Like, just
right, exactly, right. Yeah, if you're in on him, you would play that line. I mean, we know that Garrett Wilson's a good player, and that's what's keeping him alive, right? Like, it's giving him stability. You brought the DJ Moore stuff. So, DJ Moore is in a similar start to his career. Like, we had evidence like he was a good player. He just hadn't gotten over the fantasy hump. But I think the other big pullback here too is the loss of Aaron Rodgers, which feels crazy to say out loud, to say a sentence, but the Jets were 3rd in the NFL in dropback rate last year. They were 3% pass rate over expectations. Now he's going to be playing alongside Justin Fields, who he pulls that down, right? Like since entering the league, when Justin Fields has been on the field, actually, no pun intended, his teams have a 54% drop back rate. That's 29th in the NFL. They just don't. You're just not going to be put in a situation where no NFL offense at this point has wanted him to just drop back and throw 35, 40 passes a game. What evidence do we have to believe that that's going to happen here? Right.
Here's a crazy stat on that. 1 year that I was looking at this, 1 year, Justin Fields drop back to pass. So on his actual drop back. So they're not calling them, but when he actually dropped back to pass, he only actually attempted a pass on 79% of those dropbacks.
Yeah.
Like when you add up all the play, like for Pro Football Focus, they'll get rid of like the obvious throwaways.
Yeah.
When you add up the throwaways and the scrambles and the sacks, like they were calling the pass plays and he wasn't actually registering a throw. You know what I mean? It's like it is crazy with this player with that, like they don't call the plays. And when they do call him, he doesn't actually throw it. It's gotta be frustrating as hell to be an offensive coordinator for a guy that isn't actually registered. Like 20% of the time you call a pass play, it's not a registered pass. I mean, that's brutal, man. That's brutal. So I don't know. I'm very scary.
Yeah, I actually had a thread on that stat that DJ Moore ran 156 routes last year that actually wasn't a target, like a team target available.
Right.
Because Caleb took so many sacks. He scrambled, like
throwing the ball 50 yards over the head of Roma Dunze, right?
Throw away. Yeah, that's hilarious. And then I know a lot of people also, you brought the DJ Moore stuff, and not to make this somehow it's turned into a DJ Moore segment, but the other thing people are glomming onto is this very small sample of overlap at Ohio State that Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson had, where he had as a sophomore, he had 700 yards and 6 touchdowns, where it's like the third wide receiver. But we have not seen Justin Fields translate anything as a passer he displayed at Ohio State in the NFL. Like he's one of the most inaccurate quarterbacks throwing to wide receivers. Actually, since the end of the NFL, the only quarterbacks with a lower off-target rate throwing to wide receivers are Aiden O'Connell and Caleb Williams, who only has the 1 year sample that we just kind of hit on.
Lord.
So it's just really hard at that, like you said, that ADP. Like it feels like we're squeezing everything out of what we can get out of this situation. Because remember, the highest he's ever finished is wide receiver 21 in points per game. Right. And like it feels
when you look at the guys that actually finish wide receiver 1 overall, these guys have like 1,700 yards in minute. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like there are guys going in that range that I think can do that. But if Garrett Wilson has 1,700 yards out of the 2,500 yards projected for Justin Fields, I mean, like every ball needs to be thrown his way. Or Justin Fields is going to win fantasy leagues, which maybe that's possible. But like, I'd rather bet on Justin Fields at his ADP than bet on Garrett Wilson his.
Right. I will say the one pro argument I think I can make for Garrett Wilson is again the theme of the show, the potential upside of the coordinator change, right? We don't know anything about Tanner Engstrand. We don't know anything about this dude. But the early word of the early camp reports is that they're moving Garrett Wilson around, and like he hasn't done that yet in his career. His slot rates to open his career 33%, 29%, 24%. And when he has played inside, he averages almost 2 yards per out run, 1.98. And outside, it's 1.56. A lot of that is, again, quarterback induced to this point in his career. But maybe some more bunnies for him can help him in like a full PPR stance. But I'm with you. I feel like he needs to be going more like the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, like blend than the wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 blend.
Right, exactly. I have to have crazy upside. And again, that slot flanker role is where we get the top dogs, right? CeeDee Lamb playing running more of his routes at slot than out wide. Jamar Chase because they have T. Higgins to play split ends. But like, I mean, I don't know, like who even is going to help out there? Alan Lazard, Josh Reynolds. It is scary.
Arian Smith.
They got to bring in like Amari Cooper, maybe. I don't know, dude.
Yeah, and again, there's the pass volume stuff paired with that. Like, I mean, just the dropbacks compared to last year. And I know there's a trade-off in that because he was dealing with splitting with Devontae Adams the back half of the year, and now you just brought up the list of dudes he's competing for targets with. But
there's upside, yeah, but I don't know. There's just too many better players in the range. That's
yeah. I'm with you too. Let's talk about one of those guys that has delivered us those 1,700 yard seasons already, and is coming off of a really down year, was a top 5 draft pick last year. Now he's going as a complete wide receiver 2, and that's Tyreek Hill. So Tyreek is a very polarizing player this year. There seems to be a contingency that believe he's also not fast anymore, which I don't believe. But where are you stand with Tyreek Hill in these early drafts?
Yeah, dude. So For redraft, it's very scary, right? I mean, like he's the scariest player. That's the thing because his range of outcomes is best player in the league, and at the bottom, it's just disappears completely. Like if I was gonna, it doesn't happen often, but we've seen guys quit. Antonio Brown taking his shirt off, right? Mike Wallace refusing to come out of the locker room. Devondre Campbell, right? It's like if I was making a list of guys I think could quit
Yeah.
mid-season, it would be Tyreek Hill one, and then like probably Aaron Rodgers second, right? Just for like he there is. It's, he's also in the news every other week, and it's never for a good thing. Whether he's like smacking a guy at a marina, or he's breaking some plus size model's leg, or he's having another kid of like it's just like there's so many red flags around this guy. But then on the flip side, he the last time he was fully healthy, he was on pace for 2,000 receiving yards, and he was going to get it until he got a hip drop tackled. Right, like that's literally he was going to have 2,000 receiving yards if he didn't get that tackle. And he plays through injury, and he does all the things that you want a guy to do. So it's like I'm drafting him in best ball. Like if you're someone that's going to max out like 150 draft contest, you have to draft Tyreek Hill out of fear in a certain number of spots. But like when it comes to redraft time, he has to be a third round pick or lower for me to take him. And I think somebody, I hate to use like to talk down to a certain percentage of the population and call them casual gamers, but everyone knows that guy, the guy that drafted Larry Fitzgerald for like 10 straight years and it always worked. But like somebody's gonna reach for Tyreek Hill because they're just gonna see the name. So I don't know. I feel like in redraft I'm gonna be scared, but in best ball I'm so scared of the other side that I'm gonna end up with at least like you have to have minimum 5-10% Tyreek Hill because he could just ruin it all. He could break it all.
He talked about not being in like the best shape of last year and this year again. We are in best shape of your life season, but
Right.
he's talked about getting better on track. He released some video, some hype video, but of course
And
that's
the
like the new thing
wrists,
now.
right? The wrists, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you had stuff, but I think it comes down to this Miami run game, right? I've talked about this a few times this offseason, but what happened to Miami last year on the offensive line absolutely just nuked their entire offense. Mike McDaniel actually 2 days ago, before I had this, like sent you the show sheet, like Mike McDaniel talked about this specifically and changing this versus this year. So teams last year Miami faced two high safeties at the highest rate last year, 53% of their dropbacks. It was the highest rate in the NFL. And why teams were able to do that is because they couldn't make teams pay in the run game. We've talked ad nauseum about the scheme. If you go back to the other shows, if you go back to the two shows we recorded, me and Andrew have talked about, like this Shanahan tree and the run scheme. And the 2 years that Mike McDaniel's there to open Miami, they were awesome in that regard. Like, oh, we have the fastest wide receivers in the field. You have to respect their speed. You want to play coverage? Guess what? Now we're running the ball down your throat. And last year, they couldn't make them pay last year. Their running backs were 28th in yards before contact. Their their offensive line was battered. Their most frequently used combinations on the field for 35% of their snaps. They lose Terran Armstead, obviously, again. Tua throws the highest rate of passes in the NFL at the line of scrimmage. This is why Jonnu popped off. This is why Achane had a zillion catches, right? Last in the NFL in throws of 20 or more yards downfield. They had 3 passing touchdowns from outside of the red zone. The Miami Dolphins. They were dead last in the NFL. Like the fastest players they had the fastest offense in the NFL still. They had scored 3 touchdowns from outside the red zone.
Wild.
Tyreek had 3 catches of 30 or more yards. He had 23 the first 2 years of Miami. So if you believe this run game bounces back and they're able to make teams pay for playing some of that coverage, right? Then you have to say like, all right, well, Tyreek and Waddle can bounce back as well. And then that inversely correlates with, with the Jonnu stuff, right? And I actually am in the camp that I do believe that on paper, they're in position to do that. Aaron Brewer was a good player for them and fit their scheme last year at center, but they improved at both guards. Well, James Daniel's an improvement. We'll see if Jonah Sabanea is an actual improvement. He's a rookie. I don't want to just say he is an improvement, but they did attack the interior offense line. And then Austin Jackson coming back is a big deal. Austin Jackson's not the greatest pass protector, but he is massive in the run game. Last year with Austin Jackson on the field, Devin Achane had a 14.1% explosive run rate, runs of 10 or more yards. He had a 43.5% success rate And then without Austin Jackson on the field, 7.2% explosive run rate, 36.9% success rate. And it's almost a dead even 50-50 split. He had 92 attempts with him on the field, 111 with him off the field. Last year, Devin Achane was hit at or behind the line of scrimmage on 44% of his runs. As a rookie, it was 33%. When he still got contacted beyond the line of scrimmage, he was elite still, 7.2 yards per carry on those plays. He can still pick up chunk gains. So if Miami can get back to punishing teams and get to, hey, pull safety up. We're running now. We're starting to rip runs. Pull safety up. That's where you can start to see Tyreek and Waddle bounce back, and we can see some of that, big plays happen.
Yeah.
I've treated Tyreek, as a way of like roster construction. I feel like if you start with Jamar Chase or an elite receiver, it makes it more exciting to take Tyreek Hill. But when he's my wide receiver one, like if I take Bijan Robinson or so, and then I'm looking like, ooh, do I want Tyreek to be? Do I want to put it all in the Tyreek basket? But I think when you can start with these wide receiver heavy builds, he becomes pretty intoxicating because like if he hits and you got Jamar Chase or a CeeDee Lamb or a Justin Jefferson, you're adding that's a duo.
Right. And that's why I can't draft Garrett Wilson in that range, because it's like Tyreek Hill staring at me right there. And he could be the wide receiver one. We've seen him have these crazy seasons. As far as the offensive line goes, I do want to keep, like, I think camp is definitely going to matter. I definitely want to hear what's going on with James Daniels coming off an Achilles, right?
Yeah.
So I want to see what he looks like. And then, do you know anything about this guy, Patrick Paul, that's going to play left tackle? Because
he's terrible.
Okay, because I was trying to find something, because people keep saying, "Oh, the offensive line's better this year." And they're definitely, as you pointed out, a bunch of reasons better. But losing Teron Armstead, I feel like this guy, you're betting on this guy stepping up and
he's the biggest question mark for sure. I think it doesn't take a lot of squinting to see that they're better at the guard spots just by default of the bar is so low. Like it'll be better just if these guys can play, second round pick and James Daniels is back and they just have Austin Jackson on the field more. But
they seem to like the guy Paul though. So
they took him in the second round. And granted, we've seen tackles be really bad as rookies and kind of put it together. We've also seen some guys not be able to, but he played. He made 3 starts last year, 248 snaps at left tackle, 89 snaps at right tackle. He was 68th in pressure rate allowed. He was 82nd out of 85 qualifying tackles in overall grade at PFF, which, grain of salt for everyone, but still either way, not flattering. It's hard to make a bull case that he was excellent.
Well, that's why I wanted to ask you, because I know you're plugged in on that stuff, and I was trying to find some info, and there's just not a ton of info about this guy, even how they feel about him, besides the fact that they're like, hey, you know what?
They weren't counting on him to start this year either. That wasn't the plan. They were hoping Teron Armstead was going to play again.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's that's, but we'll be listening. We'll be listening. Keep an eye on Patrick Paul and James Daniel, because that's, I think if those guys are looking good, then you're right. Because the rest of the line's good for sure. So, upside down.
And the other thing Tyreek still in his back pocket is the usage was still there for him. Even with it being kind of bad. He was still the wide receiver 8 in end zone targets and share of team end zone targets. He still had a 27% of team targets field. He just was more of a floor player, which is never exciting like the Tyreek Hill floor days. But there was another time we thought Tyreek was kind of on the downswing, his last year in Kansas City, right? And he bounced right back. So he's a guy, I think, when you look at these olds, and I say olds as a today turning 43.
It's your birthday. Happy birthday,
I appreciate it. As turning 43-year-old, I'm calling this 31-year-old man old. But when you think the guys,
when they have, here's my stance on this stuff, is that I'm allowed to say, I'm not going to bash anybody, but these guys are multi millionaires. So if I want to call Luke Farrell a clunky blocking tight end, well, he just got $15 million. Okay, so I can say, honestly, he's going to be fine. He's going to be just fine. So you're okay, dude. Tyreek Hill has so much damn money. You're fine.
Out of the guys where it's are you trying to catch the falling knife? This year we have, Kelsey, he's kind of in that mid-range tight ends. We did it, definitely go check out our tight end show that we recorded. You've got Christian McCaffrey at top. The Tyreek Hill and Christian McCaffrey are the two guys that still, and McCaffrey's 29. I know that in running back years, whatever, but Christian McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill still scare the hell out of me to fade. These are dudes I still feel they're not so far gone to where like they can't come back and just have a dominant fantasy season.
Yeah, I mean, I put together a based on ADP, a list of players that you could draft if you just pulled out a 2021 draft guide, right? And it's literally like you can make a team right now that is quarterback Patrick Mahomes, tight end Travis Kelce, nice little stack. Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara as your 3 running backs, and Kamara you can get like it's like your 6th-round pick, and then you just go like Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans. Like you can build like the craziest. It's like
All-time veteran squad.
if you just roll into the all-time veteran squad, like if that team stays healthy, you would just steamroll that.
I mean, you would have won BBM2 with that for sure.
Oh my goodness, yes, yeah. So it's funny that you look at these guys. That's why I say the guy in your league, because there is a guy in your league that hasn't been paying attention. He's just going to look at those names and be like jackpot, and he's probably going to win your league.
This year, I feel like more than ever, though, we have more of those guys that are on like the cusp. I think the only guy people kind of legitimately think is like kind of cooked is Cooper Kupp.
Right.
But then like there's people still in on Stephon Diggs.
I still kind of like Diggs and I kind of like Kupp. So
yeah,
I'm
okay.
like, I'm in on the olds, man. And yeah, I think the 2017 draft was so good. Like you look at those drafts, like all the running backs in that draft, it's just like, I don't know. So,
but a lot of people, when you look at like ADP or where the market is for these guys, a lot of people still believe in most of these players. Devontae Adams still has a really palatable ADP. The Mike Evans, right? Like it's like there's still belief. There's still belief here.
And I just want people to know, like in best ball, you don't need your guy to like some of these older guys. You don't need them to stay healthy and just be like perfect. Like last year, the guy that won Best Ball Mania, a guy that was in his lineup consistently throughout the best ball playoffs was Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen, from the moment he came back from that hamstring injury, he was wide receiver 13 over the final stretch, dude. It's like, and he was free. So like, you don't necessarily need to be like, okay, who can I pick at wide receiver 50? And then he's, wide receiver 4. Like he just, the player just needs to have a stretch of games where that are exceptional at the right time. Or a couple spike weeks for some of these guys where they're going. Cause like Cooper Kupp's very cheap. And as we talked about, they're going to use that fullback. They're going to use that blocking tight end. So like the wide receiver 3 is going to be out of the picture, like Braxton Berrios and the wide receiver 3 for the 49ers and for the Saints last year. Like it's going to be highly consolidated. There's a real possibility. There's a real possibility that he just is bad now, but like there's also a possibility that he gets 140 targets.
Yeah, and I talk about it every year. The one thing we lose this time of year and from fantasy analysis and everyone is because everyone's looking at like these full season long projections or full season long outcome, but it's always about pockets of production and what do those lines up, because you were going to have a bunch of injuries that happen in season that alter kind of the landscape and the target tree, the target pecking order. And if you just run in the right pockets of production as on your roster, it could be early in the season where it positions you where, hey, I got all these wins. Now I'm going into where I could potentially have a bye week in these playoffs, or like you said, the end of the year run where you're getting the guys that get hot the end of the year, the Brian Thomas Jr.'s or the Adam Thielens and those guys that give you to push you through the playoffs. It's never really we have very few players. We have a very finite number of players every NFL season that are just good weeks 1 through 17. Like it's like 1 to 2 guys at every position. And then other than that, it's just being in the right spots in these guys.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley chasing 2,000 rushing yards. Like that's how you get 1 through 17. Like they were just forcing him the ball, chasing a record. Like, yeah, then maybe that. But yeah, 1 through 17, not really like a real thing. You're really looking for, like last year, the big money maker, the Bengals were bad. The Bengals lost the Patriots week 1. They were struggling early on, but they got lightning hot down the stretch. And if you had T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, and Jamar Chase down the stretch, when Joe Burrow was throwing 3 touchdown passes a game and they were all going to Chase and Higgins, those are like, you go look at the teams that finished top 10 in Best Ball Mania, pretty much just those teams. And then like a couple teams that had the perfect combination of like Barkley, Jaden Daniels, and like Josh Jacobs. Like, you're just trying to get hot at exactly the right time.
Football season is right around the corner, and there's no better way to lock in your fantasy dominance early than with Best Ball on DraftKings, where you draft once and ride your roster all season long. And right now, DraftKings is giving all customers a can't-miss offer. Draft one, get one. Enter a lineup in the $15 million Best Ball contest for just $20. And you'll score another Best Ball ticket to play free for a share of $15 million, giving you a second shot to win big. It's easy. Just draft your dream team once, no weekly management required, and let your top scorers automatically start each week. Across the whole season, every breakout star, every clutch play, every touchdown will count towards your quest for a share of $15 million. And if you're looking for someone to plug into your best ball lineup, there's nothing better to buy than year 2 wide receivers. Looking at wideouts that have been selected outside of the top 24 based on years in the league, second-year wideouts have delivered the highest hit rates for beating their ADP and delivering wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 scoring seasons. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app now to draft your $20 best ball lineup to play for a share of $15 million and get a second ticket to play free for a share of $15 million. That's 2 chances to win big without ever setting your lineup again. Draft one, get one, only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. I got one more other guy here in this range, and it's a player I think people like believe in, but don't know, how healthy is he? He's getting steamed though, and it's we talked about Patrick Mahomes a little bit, and then the Travis Kelce. It's their teammate Rashee Rice. So how have you been handling Rashee Rice? Were you someone that was trying to get on him early? Now cooling off, he's rising. Are you just all the way locked in? Is he still a value? How do you see this thing playing out here for these Chiefs pass catchers?
I was not in on him early, and now I have the FOMOs, and I'm imploring people to get some now. Get some Rashee Rice right now. And the simple question you have to ask yourself, if there was no concern about injury and there was no concern about a possible suspension, where should this player be drafted? Right? And the answer is the second round for sure. And possibly also like that 1-2 swing. Like when he got hurt last year, and I know it's a very small sample size, 3 games, blah, blah, blah. He was leading the league in receptions, right? He had second most fantasy points behind only Malik Neighbors, second most targets behind only Malik Neighbors. Like there's a possibility that Rashee Rice is incredible, right? And the more you look at the situation, he's showing up to camp. He looks healthy. He doesn't even have a knee brace on. Also, with the suspension front, for him to get suspended, the civil cases don't matter. A criminal case needs to come up, and he basically needs to go to court, and then they suspend him, right? Because if he was going to be put on the exempt list, the way other people have for more serious things, then it would have happened. Because they basically just say this guy's so the things surrounding him are so bad, we can't have him around the teams, right? Adrian Peterson with the domestic abuse situation, they put him on the exempt list and said he can't even be around the facility. Rashee Rice, the fact that they're like it would be so weird for them to turn around and say that now with nothing there. And we've got guys, luckily in the industry, doing work that I didn't even know how to do. With Drew Davenport, who's also a lawyer. Yeah, shout out Drew. He's like, I don't even know how you go about doing this. He probably has some secret lawyer key to get in there, some accounts. But he's been checking the Dallas docket to see if the criminal case is coming up, and he's basically telling us,
God bless gambling.
Right, exactly, dude. It's like if the case doesn't come up on the docket soon, then they're not going to go to court this year. Even he's like, it needs to come up like this month, or it's not going to be seen in 2025. And if it's not seen in 2025, then he won't get suspended in 2025. So for me, I'm getting shares of Rashee Rice right now. I'm just loading up right now, and I implore you to do the same. Because once the training camp videos and stuff come out where he's actually out there, I mean, the videos that we saw at OTAs and minicamp, he wasn't even working with the rehab group. He was with the wide receiver group. So like, there's a possibility that this guy isn't hurt and he isn't suspended. And if that's the case, then he should be going second round.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were also freaked out. I think the initial reports, they thought he had an ACL, and he didn't. He actually didn't have an ACL injury. It was LCL. And I think there was kind of some misreporting early on, or at least lost in translation, where people thought like, oh, he's coming back from an ACL. But his injury, while still severe, was not quite the scarlet letter. In football, we've been taught to hear Achilles ACL, like, oh my God.
Oh yeah. Now it's like if I hear like patellar tendon, that's patellar tendon, Achilles, like those are the new scarlet letter. I feel like. Even ACL, if it's a clean ACL, you come back. But
let me ask piggyback on this, like an extension to this related to Rashee Rice. We saw the ascension in almost a Rice-like fashion of Xavier Worthy at the end of last year. How do you see kind of these guys kind of being put together? Because Worthy took off by getting like that increased slot role and catching more stuff near the line of scrimmage. So how do you kind of see the marriage of these guys? And does it push you off one of these guys?
Yeah, I am a little concerned with Worthy. I will say he was getting a lot of targets, and for a guy that's supposed to be like he is explosive. This is like explosive field stretcher. Like he didn't really have a lot of 80-yard games during the season. Like he didn't have any 100-yard games. He had the 100-yard garbage time game in the Super Bowl, but we all watched that game. The whole world watched that game, and like, oh, some of that was garbage time. You know, it's like for me, and the Chiefs do run. People are usually surprised to see the number of wide receiver screens the Chiefs run. It is a lot. Like if you add wide receiver screens to tight end screens, nobody even comes close to this team. That's kind of been one of their cheat codes. With Xavier Worthy, I'm willing to take him more often in best ball just because he did get what do you have like 20 carries last year. Like you get that.
We talked about that on another show too.
Yeah, we did talk about that today. Yeah, I think I actually said it earlier, but then I forgot the. I think it was like 20. But like he gets carries, and that obviously adds to your best ball profile. But I mean, when you're getting 10 targets a game from Patrick Mahomes, I'm expecting you to have a couple games with like 120, 130 yards. We didn't really see that. So he could take he's got the speed. He could take the next step here, but I could just see Rashee Rice coming back. Travis Kelce, like the worst ever season where a guy caught 100 passes. You know what I mean? He caught 97 passes and didn't
Well, it
play
wasn't the plan, right? Like when you look at the Chiefs, the way they entered last year and the way they played the first month, it was never the plan to like run the offense through Travis Kelce again. It was a proxy of just what happened. Hollywood got hurt in the preseason. 4 weeks into the season, Rashee Rice goes down, and they're like, "Oh, we're back. Here. We are back at this." So, yeah, I mean, Kelce can now be more of a contributor,
right? With all those guys, Kelce, Hollywood, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy's being drafted fairly high. Like when you look at his ADP, it's a little high for like there are guys there that in that range that are locked in. Like and I sit there, I'm looking at Xavier Worthy versus Devonta Smith. I'm like, I can't help but go to Smith because I know he's a top 2 target on the team. They got nobody else. There were rumors of trading Dallas Goedert, and that team was dead last in pass attempts last year. And I think maybe that comes up a little bit. So, were they second to last in dropbacks? I think was it the Packers had the fewest dropbacks?
they were second to last. I mean, but,
Yeah. So
and missed time. All those guys missed time too. They're another team that had everyone miss time.
right. So it's tough for me. I get the upside case. The upside case is obviously there, and
Well, so you kind of hit that. So maybe Worthy's like a kind of a stay away for that price tag. Is there anyone that we didn't talk about out of those like kind of 3 like in or out guys? Anyone else in that wide receiver 2 range that like you just find yourself like clicking? Like you're just like, oh yeah, I'm in on this guy.
Yeah, I go for the high consolidation. I do like that thought process especially in best ball. So if let's talk best ball here. I'm looking for highly consolidated offenses where I can cheaply potentially, and again, I don't like to reach to stack, but if I can cheaply stack a whole like 2 wide receivers and a quarterback group and try and pull off. I know it's dumb to chase last year, but maybe a team gets hot and throws to the same guys over the last stretch, like guys like Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, Sam Darnold, I know they want to run more, but Sam Darnold, like for fantasy last year, was slinging it. You know what I mean? If he's going to come out and chuck it, I mean, he got MVP votes, right? He threw 40 touchdown passes, right? So it's like, or 35 or whatever it is. So it's like, if he comes out and he's throwing the ball well, a JSN, Cooper Kupp, Sam Darnold stack is cheap. Same with if I draft Puka Nacua, the next thought I have is, well, maybe I can get Nacua, Devontae Adams in this range, and then get Matthew Stafford for nothing because he's quarterback 25. And what happens if down the stretch, you have a stretch of games where Matthew Stafford's throwing for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, and all the passes are going to Nacua and Devontae Adams, and it's not that hard to imagine. It's not like you can picture it right now. So those type things I like doing in best ball where there's correlation that I can get for cheap. And I think these guys on a standalone basis, if you get them, JSN and Devontae Adams easily could be getting 140, 150 targets easily.
I love that shot. I love that because we've done this for years in fantasy, the handcuff running back, right?
Right.
But we never really price in contingency upside for wide receivers, and it drives me crazy. I talk about it like every year. So you talk about like a guy like Devontae Adams or Devontae Smith, like these guys have face up value. You can include T. Higgins in this too, that are going in that wide receiver 2 range. He's going a little bit like right on that cusp. But if Jamar Chase has missed any time, if Puka Nacua misses any time, if AJ Brown misses any time, like these guys go to 30% target shares like on a dime and
Immediately.
like are already good players. Like, yeah, I love the contingency upside.
Right. I would do it in tight end sometimes. I've been calling it some of these tight ends the old double handcuff plus, where it's like either they have standalone value, and now this is one's a tight end. We already did a tight end show, but just real
Yeah.
quick, they have standalone value. But if either wide receiver gets hurt, now they're the guy. Dallas Goedert's been that. He had a monster game last year when wide receivers were hurt. Kate Otten was that. Brenton Strange this year could potentially be that. I mean, if Travis Hunter face plants or one of BTJ or Travis Hunter gets hurt, I mean, who's going to step up? De'Ami Brown, Parker Washington? I don't think so. So, I mean, like there are paths to that. I prefer to kind of keep an eyeball on those guys on waivers than draft them. But like, you got to be thinking about what happens, man, because like regular leagues are won on waivers for sure.
I love that. The great Andrew Cooper. Andrew, let everyone know what you guys got going on at Fantasy Alarm. Let everyone know where they can find the work, where they can listen to you, and hear more of what you got to say.
Absolutely. I didn't want to, your intro was so smooth and clean that I didn't want to interrupt and say that I'm actually not on Wednesdays. I'm on Thursdays and Fridays on Sirius XM,
Oh my God.
6 to 8 p.m. Don't worry about it, dude. You just said it on all three shows. Not a big deal. But we're going to say
Now you listen Wednesday through Friday.
Thursday and Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. And then also Sunday morning during the season. Our draft guide's out now. It has all my rankings. It has, not only do I do my full rankings, but I do a second set of color coded rankings, not just for tight end, for yin and yang tight end, but also for quarterback and wide receiver and running back, to try and separate out the safe guys from the upside guys and kind of get your mind thinking in the right direction on how to build a lineup that's both safe, has enough safety and enough upside to win you some leagues. So really the Fantasy Alarm draft guide is where you get all my thoughts right now. The Fantasy Alarm website and YouTube is where all the articles and the videos live. So, and on Twitter at Coupe Fiasco or Blue Sky at Coupe Fiasco is where you can find my snippets of our thoughts, where more and more I do the social media, the more I'd rather just sit down with you, Rich, and let's just talk it out than try and explain a stat that is 200 characters, So
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Listen, I love that. Definitely go check out, Andrew's work the rest of the summer. Stay glued into him. I can't wait to see if I can run into you there, this summer. We can hang out a couple
You
times
will.
and chop it up. As usual, head over to sharpfootballanalysis.com. Pre-order the 2025 preview book that, Warren Sharp and all of us and the team have been putting together. That's going to be available, the next couple of weeks. Keep hitting that draft guide that me and Raymond Summerlin are working on. And until the next show, we'll see you.